Enjoy the Gang of Four.
What a difference a day makes. At this time yesterday, it was pitch black outside, it was stormy, it was frightening. That's only happening in this room today. It's a Gang of Four. We kick off the weekend with a very contentious gang. We'll meet them. I'm predicting that. I don't know that. I feel like they'll be at each other's throats. We're going to talk to them and kick around the big stories of the day and the week. You can be a part of it anytime at 599-5555. Of course, you can get a vote in on the JR poll. You can also do that by friending me on Facebook or go to ktsa.com, keyword Jack. Later in our show, we'll have some Taylor Trash, and we'll remember the late, great Steve Gerline here on News Talk 550 KTSA. But for starters, we welcome back to the gang today, former Bexar County DA and now a judge of the 4th Court of Appeals. He's not in his robe today.
Well, you never let me come. They never let me get it out of the courthouse, actually.
He's not allowed to leave the courthouse.
That's it. You know, I have to
it's
rent
like bowling shoes.
That's kind of it. I have to rent it, man.
Steve Hilbig is here. Steve, welcome back.
Well, thank you.
Have you been off on one of your outdoor sojourns?
I was figuring you were going to ask that, and it's kind of like I'm trying to figure out when we could get away maybe in July and do something good.
Seems like that guy in the movie that had to cut his own arm off because he got trapped in the mountains. Steve was always climbing mountains and going into the jungle.
I think Sylvie's trying to cut her arm off a couple of times to get away from me.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking.
She says, you know, when you take a backpacking trip and it's just the the 4 of you together on a couple of nights in a real small tent, that's her marriage encounter.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you back on the gang, Steve Hilbig. Also with us today, Louis Barrios, who is one of the famous restaurateurs of San Antonio, and a man with a few opinions beyond, would you like rice and beans with that? Louis,
that's
welcome
right,
back.
and your hair looks nice that way, Jack. Another opinion.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Can you get a shot of that?
I'm here to help.
I'll have to remember.
Yeah.
What is new with you?
Well, Diana did win the Gracious Givers competition.
Yeah, congratulations.
So we raised over $12,000 to $15,000 for my mom's foundation.
Last time you were
the
here,
Viola's Huge Heart Foundation. Very excited about that. Yeah. And our next big fundraiser for the foundation is Viola's Birth Month, where at both restaurants in July we will have Viola's Heart Cake. All the proceeds go to the foundation, and the restaurants pick up the food cost. And we are going to hire you to help us do some testimonials for that. So we're going to
have to wait on tables.
Well, that's part of the deal.
Is that part of it?
Part of the deal, Jack.
Lee. Los Barrios and
that's why I like the hair. The hair works at Los Barrios and Hacienda.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that. Yeah. Usually, we're talking about hair. We're talking about Elaine Wolff's hair because we like her kind of Annie Lennox post-Eurythmics look. I got to say again, I mentioned it briefly yesterday, Elaine. We so appreciate you and everybody at Plaza, TX.com for all the help you gave us with these candidate forums. You guys did a great job.
We love doing it. We were honored to join you guys. So
that's hopefully that'll be a permanent part of our political arrangements.
We would love it.
Good. And a lot of research, and you knew a lot about all these different districts. People would say to me, "She must live there," and I would say, "Well, she can't live in all of those districts." I mean, but very good information.
I wonder how I'm going to feel Sunday. I mean, I think there's going to be some runoffs, so we can have a little bit of tapering off of.
That's exactly right. You want to go cold turkey on Saturday with citywide election. Why do you think people aren't voting? What's going on?
I have no idea why people aren't voting. I'm kind of hoping that maybe, and this may be completely Pollyanna view, I'm kind of hoping that in like districts 1 and 7, where you have a couple of big fields, and I think really some decent candidates in both, that people are kind of waiting to the last minute because they can't decide. They're trying to get as much information as they can. Yeah.
We will find out tomorrow night.
It's also possible they've given up on democracy.
Oh, it could be that too. Right. Yeah, all right. Speaking of democracy, a real tortured exercise in it yesterday by a man named Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney had to give a speech yesterday in which he would try to explain how he was going to be the presidential candidate of the party that's going to take down Obamacare the way we just took down bin Laden, while simultaneously being the man best known for giving us the baby version of Obamacare known as Romneycare. And it's interesting, if you pull on your headphones, gang, he took, I guess, maybe the only approach you could take under the circumstances. Cut 4 if we can get it done. This is Mitt Romney yesterday.
Within summary about what we did and its differences with President Obama's plan, that explanation is not going to satisfy everybody. And I respect the views of those who think that we took the wrong course and who think we should have taken a different short course. I also recognize that a lot of pundits around the nation are saying that I should just stand up and say this whole thing was a mistake, that it was just a boneheaded idea, and I should just admit it. It was a mistake and walk away from it. And I presume that a lot of folks would conclude that if I did that, that'd be good for me politically. But there's only one problem with that. It wouldn't be honest. I, in fact, did what I believed was right for the people of my state. And I'm going to describe to you now what I think would be right for the people of the United States, which is quite a different plan.
I'm not sorry. I did what I had to do then, and I'll do what I have to do now. You know, I don't see how he can make this fly. Does that work for you?
Everybody's looking at me. It's kind of like, I think it all depends what the rest of the message is. I mean, in essence, he was saying, okay, I mean, I probably would have packaged it like, look, we tried to do something innovative. And what Obama did is what he thought was based on ours, not really. And let me tell you what the differences are. And I see now that there were some mistakes that we had in the plan, and here's how we're going to, you know, improve things.
Okay, if I'm a voter, I tuned that out halfway through that explanation.
Well, you didn't ask me what my 30-second soundbite was.
That's just what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, it takes longer than 30 seconds.
Elaine, am I right or am I wrong? Unless you've got a very neat way of pivoting away from this, you're going to wear this around your neck.
I don't think there's a super neat way to. He got halfway there in saying, you know, let's be honest. This is what I did for my state. It was the right thing to do for my state. By the way, a lot of people in my state are very happy with it. He could say, so let's figure out what's right for each of the 49 other states.
And he did kind of say that. He said, you know, I'm a federalist, and you know, it shouldn't be one size fits all.
Right.
The problem, of course, is that you're not going to get past these Republican primary voters with anything less than, I'm really, 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 really sorry, and I didn't mean it. I mean, you can't. But if he says that, then people will say one more flip flop.
I mean, why doesn't he really go out and try to sell the success of the plan in his state?
It's not succeeding. It's failing.
I think that depends on who you talk to. I don't think that's across the board agreement on that. So
there's a longer and longer wait for doctors. I mean, it was popular when they did it. I remember, but I can tell you that it's not popular even in Massachusetts anymore. So I don't know how you would sell it. Is it possible for a politician these days to say I was wrong, or is that in and of itself fatal no matter what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that the electorate makes it difficult. Actually, I should say the really vocal part of the electorate that tends to participate heavily in primaries makes it very hard to say I was wrong, or here's a better way to do it. Or here, by the way, is what we've learned from it in the meantime, and some of the problems that we're having with it right now are partially because of the recession and some other things that are going on in a larger way that the state alone cannot affect. I mean, what I was going to say is you can say, let's talk about what's right for the other 49 states, but there are underlying problems with health care that I don't think that you can only address at the micro level in each state. You have to have that conversation.
Real quick, though, I think the public respects somebody who says, I got it wrong. Now, I mean, I think there's a difference between I was intentionally messing something up or you know, I was acting in bad faith and it caused a problem. But, I mean, look at all the redemption stories that we've had. I screwed out on my wife and, gee, I'm sorry. And, you know, they move on sometimes. So, sometimes they don't. I mean, like, you could look at Spitzer and all that, and, of course, he's...
But see, this is too sort of close to I changed my mind, and then that becomes flip flopping. It's not the
same
as
it's not the same
as right, exactly. It's not the same as I have a human flaw and I did something human, like we all do something human.
No, I think it's more of like I thought this program would work as we got into it because of these problems. As you were kind of saying before, as we got into it, there were these other problems that were unforeseen, and it didn't work. So yeah, now looking back, yeah, it was the wrong thing to do, but we didn't know it at the time.
Louis, this guy is a business executive. I mean, that's his real calling card. That's his real credential. And you're a businessman. Is he getting across the point that, hey, I tried to handle this like a manager, and what worked here would not necessarily work there? Can he disengage Romney Care from Obamacare?
Well, I guess he's trying to position himself that I'm the best guy to beat Obama, that I'm going to be the last man standing here. Right. And compared to Donald Trump, I mean, he looks like a real good businessman / politician. So it depends who he's comparing himself to. I guess he could also say, well, it sounded like a good idea at the time, but it turned out not to be a good one. But I guess the best thing to say is states are incubators, and we worked on this. It hasn't worked out like we thought it would. So we have got to repeal health care. I mean, he's got to get to the point where he repeals health care. He says that because that's the only way he's going to get the base on board.
The irony is, whatever else you think of him, he might be the best informed candidate on healthcare issues because of the amount of work he did on it. And if you're actually serious about that, don't you need a guy who knows how to take it apart? But I just don't think people will get past. And of course, the Obama people were very quick when they were proposing Obamacare to say, hey, this is just like what Mitt Romney did. Whether that's true or not, they're the ones that actually made that connection, which is now, I think, permanent in people's minds.
But he's going to hope that he stacks up best against President
Well, he's
Obama.
definitely doing better than Trump. I guess if that's,
much better.
If that's your standard, he's having a great week.
Talk about a recipe for a low turnout during an election.
But Jack, just to your point, like if politicians can never admit a mistake, then you're never going to have anybody taking bold steps.
Right.
Because when you take bold steps, you're going to fall down every once in a while. And when I was DA and campaigning a lot, I would tell folks that, because you have to trust them and understand that you know, not every program somebody proposes is going to work out. Now, not every idea is going to necessarily be successful. But if the criteria is you only want to try to elect people who've never made a mistake in their life, who've never had a bad program, we're going to end up with some really lousy office holders.
It's interesting to me, too, because I think what people need to hear from him is an I get it kind of acknowledgement. Right. Mm-hmm. I get that you're angry. I get that you don't like the individual mandate. I'm talking about Republican, you know, the base now. I know this is true of everybody. But obviously the Republican base does not like the mandate, does not like the sort of force-fed from on high solution to what they believe is a market-driven problem. And I don't think he communicated that. He's saying, enough already with what I did. Now I want to tell you what I'm going to do from here on out, and I don't know if they're going to let him get away with it. I had an interesting email from a friend of mine who is very conservative and Republican, and says, I know you're going to rip him for what he said. He says, conservatives are capable of screwing things up royally. Keep this up, and we'll give Obama another term, at which point Mitt Romney will look like a steakhouse dinner that you passed up. Are the Republicans screwing up what might be their best candidate if they don't let this guy off the hook?
Well, I think you're talking, that is the primary problem right now. Like when you have such an ideological divided discourse, right, that is exactly what the Republicans are worried about as a whole, that they will end up nominating a candidate who cannot win ultimately nationally. So
is he somebody that could win nationally?
I think he is somebody who could win nationally, right? I mean, he has that sort of presidential demeanor. He actually has had a very good record overall as a public servant. I think he's got the intellectual chops. He's got that kind of gravitas that we look for. So yeah, I think, and you know, he has been close enough to the middle on enough issues that I think that he could be competitive. So,
and Jack, on a national level, this is the best thing that could happen. If you can't get over this problem, then how are you going to handle the more difficult ones as they arise? And so part of testing a candidate or a person's mettle is to say, okay, here's a real big problem. Did he solve it the right way? Did he get over the hump in a way that I find would demonstrate that he has a capability to handle the tough problems when he's in office? And so I think it is the right thing to do. You know, let's have this vetting period during the primaries. Let people demonstrate that they have the capacity to handle the tough problems. And I think it's going to work better for the party.
Which Republican candidate, by the way, is going to come out of a state that has a really awesome health care system? Who is that? Do we know?
Well, I mean, I don't think any state has a really awesome health care system. Yeah. It would be interesting, though, if you could have the discussion about whether this is something that should be reformed state by state, which I believe it is, because one good thing about states, whether it's Tennessee with TennCare or Romney with Romney Care, is that if you screw it up, you can back out of state laws and state plans. But if you screw it up at the federal level, it's almost impossible to take apart or stop or defund. We're seeing that now. So let the states make their mistakes, because you can reverse them. And people will let you know very quickly if you didn't get it right.
The Restaurant Association just got back from D.C., and we were trying to modify the health care law, making it more palatable, because the restaurant industry will be the most impacted industry because we're the largest employer. Louis Barrios, with their 2 restaurants, we have 250 employees. Mi Tierra, their 3 restaurants, they have 600 employees. And those are small businesses. So we'll be the most impacted industry in the whole country. So we're trying to make it a little bit more palatable if Obama were to win a second term and we had to live with Obamacare. The challenge was we were talking to congressmen and they didn't understand it.